Thank you very much for having us, and it's a pity that we are only in digital Gdansk, because I know Gdansk is a lovely city, but nothing we can do. My name is Julius Uhlmann, and I'm joined today by my colleague Johannes Vogel. We both are researchers at the Bauhaus University in Weimar, focusing on transport safety. And our presentation is entitled "The Right of Way at Pedestrian Crossings in European Countries." So what's that about? We prepared a structure to guide us through this presentation. First, we will talk about the motivation, we will reveal our methodology, speak about the general provisions in supranational road regulations, present you with our results from our research, have a short discussion of the results, a conclusion, and in the end, a bit of outlook into the future. So, why talk about pedestrian crossings? Why is it relevant? For me, it's a topic that really fascinates me. That's why I also decided to devote my PhD research on this topic. And what I find very interesting is pedestrian crossings is something that exists worldwide. Almost all countries in the world, and surely all countries in the European Union and in Europe, have pedestrian crossings. And they are the only form of crossing where the pedestrian always has the right of way. At a traffic light, the pedestrian needs to wait until he or she gets a green light to cross, but at a pedestrian crossing, he always has the right of way, at least according to the Vienna Convention. We'll talk about that a bit later. And our own experiences show that the behavior of pedestrians and motorists at pedestrian crossings vary very much between different countries. And as we have found out in previous research, so also does the traffic safety. So we started wondering, does a pedestrian really always have the right of way? Or are there certain preconditions that need to be in place that he has the right of way? For example, he already has to be on the pavement, or he needs to wave his hand or jump around. What did we do to find out about the answer to this question? We did an analysis of supranational regulations and the national road traffic regulations of 35 European countries. And our research question was, which conditions for the right of way at pedestrian crossings of pedestrians at pedestrian crossings are mentioned? And we collected our data between January and May 2020. So any changes that were incorporated afterwards are not accounted for. I know that in Poland there is a discussion going on changing the regulations. But we are at the state of May 2020 where there was no new regulation in Poland, as far as we are aware. And to make it a bit more interesting and also to add the road traffic safety perspective, we matched the data from the legislative results with road traffic death rates for 14 countries, which we had obtained in a previous research project. So first, let's talk about the general provisions, the general things that are regulating the pedestrian crossings worldwide. And this is the text of the Vienna Convention on Road Traffic, and there it's clearly stated that car drivers need to yield for pedestrians using or about to use it. So no matter whether the pedestrian already is on the road or if he's standing there looking, waiting maybe for a gap in the traffic stream to cross, in each conditions, the car drivers need to yield. So that's a very pedestrian-friendly regulation. So what about the Vienna Convention? Who has to follow it? Well, this map shows the countries in Europe, and we can see that except for Ireland, Iceland, and the Kosovo, all countries in Europe have signed the Vienna Convention on Road Traffic, and of those countries that have signed it, all except for Spain have also ratified it. So in all countries except of Ireland, Iceland, Spain, and the Kosovo, this very pedestrian-friendly regulation should be in place. So, quick switch.
Yeah, so good morning also from my side. I will present some results of our study, and as Julius already said, we found different the countries implemented the Vienna Convention differently. So we found two groups actually in which we can separate the countries. One group of the countries provide full priority for the pedestrians, meaning that it doesn't matter where the pedestrians are, if they are already crossing the road or if they are just waiting or approaching or about to use the zebra crossing. The other group provides only limited priority, which means that the pedestrians have to be already on the road, on the zebra crossing to get priority. On this map, we see how it's divided, which country provides which kind of priority or belongs to which group. And we can see that there is actually no clear tendency, but except of Portugal, the UK, and Ireland, there's like a slight tendency to more Eastern European countries which provide only limited priority, especially when we think about that, for example, countries like Ukraine, Moldova, or also Hungary, which are colored in green, so we counted them to full priority now, but they do not really have a clear distinction of the location or the action of the pedestrian, which is necessary to obtain priority. So it's not clearly defined in these regulations, but for this study, we counted them to the group of full priority. So a small tendency towards the Eastern European countries, which provide only limited priority. Now we matched these results with the road traffic death rates, which we obtained in a previous project. So the numbers you can see here show the fatalities at pedestrian crossings per 1 million inhabitants. And here we see that, for example, in countries like Poland or Lithuania, there's a quite high road traffic death rate, and these countries provide only limited priority. On the other hand, there are countries like Sweden, Germany, the Netherlands, which have a very low road traffic death rate and provide full priority. So the tendency is possible that in countries with limited priority, there are higher road traffic death rates. However, there are also exceptions. For example, if we look at the UK, which has the lowest road traffic death rates of the countries analyzed, but provides only limited priority. And for example, also in Estonia, we have a quite high road traffic death rate related to the other countries, but they provide full priority. So there is a slight tendency towards that limited priority countries have a slightly lower level of traffic safety. However, this is what we want to discuss, if this influence is really that big or if it's debatable. First of all, one of our conclusions, of course, is that the Vienna Convention clearly stipulates the pedestrians' general priority. So they should have in general priority, but the implementation in the countries varies. We have found two groups of the countries which provide limited priority to the pedestrians, which can create a certain feeling of uncertainty, and yeah, as well for the pedestrians as for the motorists, since for the motorists or the car drivers, it might not be clear how the pedestrians behave. And this feeling of uncertainty might also lead to a lower traffic safety, since uncertainty often is like a cause for conflicts or even accidents. However, there might be like unwritten laws in these countries so that it actually works, such as that if a pedestrian approaches the crossing, that the car driver stops anyways, even if it's not regulated like this in the regulations, but we cannot know that because we didn't observe it. On the other hand, we have the countries with full priority for the pedestrians, which means, of course, more comfort for the pedestrians, which is in in the field, or with view to empowering the non-motorized traffic participants, is a good thing. It's also like a feature of harmonization in Europe, so that the Vienna Convention actually is implemented like it should be. And it's a clear and easy understandable rule, especially for children or elderly people. So it's not that uncertain like in the countries with limited priority. However, it's not really clearly defined what it means that somebody is about to use a crossing or is approaching a zebra crossing. So this should be defined more in detail. So to conclude, a major influence on traffic safety definitely remains debatable. It's not a clear influence is visible. However, a slight tendency is visible. So we presume that the right-of-way regulation is one of many influence factors, probably also not the biggest one, but one influence factor. And that's exactly what we would analyze more in detail in further studies as next steps. For example, the design guidelines, the national design guidelines probably also are quite different within the countries. So this would be a necessary option to compare them, because they probably have a quite high influence also on the traffic safety on pedestrian crossings. We would go more in-depth analysis of the accidents. And as mentioned before, we would observe the behavior of the traffic participants, the car drivers, as well as the pedestrians. So this, so far, from our side to this topic, we are looking forward to go more in detail into the studies and are happy about questions.
So yeah, also from my side, thank you very much for your attention. If you're interested in doing cool traffic safety research with us, then send us an email or give us a call. And if you're on Instagram, you can follow me at European Zebra. I post cool pictures of pedestrian crossings.